Derek Carr shocked the NFL world with his retirement over the weekend, and now I think the New Orleans Saints must trade for a quarterback. I'll tell you who on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso, with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready, Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome in to a bonus edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. I am your host, the madman, Tyler Rowland, and on today's show, we're going to take a look at Derek Carr's sudden retirement over the weekend. I'm going to tell you what this means for the Saints financially. I'm going to tell you why I think the Saints need to trade for a quarterback, and I'll even tell you which quarterbacks they should trade for. Before we dive into all of it, I do want to thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen each and every day. Thank you for tuning in to the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. But with that in mind, again, we get the big news over the weekend that Derek Carr is going to step away from the New Orleans Saints, and my guy, the mastermind, Ross Jackson, was on the news.
New Orleans Saints quarterback Derek Carr announces his retirement. What a wild Saturday morning. I was literally just getting ready to head to rookie minicamp as the New Orleans Saints are about to kick off some of their next offseason programming, and we get this announcement straight from the New Orleans Saints themselves via a press release that Derek Carr has officially announced his retirement. Of course, he is dealing with a shoulder injury that was initially threatening his season. Now looks like that shoulder injury was actually threatening his career. I assume he'll now move forward and go and get that surgery and try to move on to live his best life after that. But this is huge for the New Orleans Saints because it effectively turns everything over to either rookie quarterback Tyler Shough, who's the highest drafted rookie quarterback by the New Orleans Saints in the NFL draft since Archie Manning in 1971. And of course, second-year quarterback Spencer Rattler to open up their battle to figure out who's going to be QB1 in 2025. The New Orleans Saints will get $30 million back from this deal. Derek Carr walks away with $10 million. It was already guaranteed. But what a wild, wild situation. For more, make sure you're checking out Locked On Saints. We're going live here soon.
And it is a wild situation at the end of the day. We knew the Derek Carr situation with the injury, his uncertainty for 2025. We knew that was all real, but I just don't think anybody truly contemplating seeing Derek Carr retire. And one of the big reasons is the financials. Derek Carr is giving back the New Orleans Saints $30 million with this retirement. Earlier in the offseason, the Saints did a restructure with Derek Carr to give him $30 more million to help them out with their salary cap situation. Well, now Derek Carr is going to give that money back. And because he's retiring, it doesn't really change much for the Saints this year. He has to give that cash back. He got a $10 million bonus from earlier in the offseason that he gets to keep, but that's a lot of money to give back. Now, for the Saints, again, $1.2 million basically he saves this year. Ryan Ramczyk is retiring too. Both of these guys will be designated as a post-June 1st retirement, which kind of splits up the money from this year and next year. But in 2026 is when the Saints will really see the benefit from this. They're going to save $30 million in cap hit with Derek Carr in 2026 because of this retirement, from $69 million on the cap to $39 million on the cap. So that's obviously a big help for the Saints. For Derek Carr, look, the reality here is, and listen when I say this, I would much rather be a mid-level starting quarterback in the NFL than a podcaster. I'm just going to be straight honest with you guys on that one. But the reality here is Derek Carr is the face of mediocrity as a starting quarterback in the NFL. He is mid, as the kids like to say. He is exactly what a mid quarterback is. He had some moments where he had flashes of being a second-level quarterback for most of his career. To me, he was a third-tier quarterback. 41,000 passing yards in his career. He has the most passing yards, 41,245, of any quarterback in NFL history that didn't win a playoff game. I'm sorry, but at the end of it, and again, I would do a lot of crazy things to be a mid-level quarterback instead of working in the media. But that is the reality for me when I look at Derek Carr's career. He played against the Tennessee Titans one time, and on fourth down, it is fourth down in the red zone. Fourth down at the end of the game. The end of the game is over after the play. Fourth down, Derek Carr threw the ball away because he was mad at a teammate. for not running the right sandlot route in the end zone. Derek Carr, to me, is a guy who just never got the most out of his talent. And I think he never got the most out of his talent in New Orleans. I thought he could have been better than what he was, and he just never quite got there. Now he had a ton of change. It's like 6 or 7 offensive coordinators, coaches in his career. So maybe you can use that as a way to prop him back up. But I think the Saints are in a better position now for having Derek Carr move on and go to a different place. But what they need to do is they need to go out and make a move. Because the quarterbacks that remain, like my guy Ross Jackson was just saying, are all young guys. Tyler Shough, who was just drafted out of Louisville, or 7 years in college, really. He was just at Louisville last. He backed up Justin Herbert. That's crazy. Spencer Rattler, who, not a very well-liked guy from his time doing that quarterback show. Definitely a guy that people may not gravitate towards. And then Justin Haener. I'm sorry, but that is despicable. Now, look, here's what I would say for the Saints. If you want to embrace what I have been saying all offseason, you need to embrace. You need to accept your fate, that your team isn't good, your roster is expensive and old. You need to totally rechange this thing and do a total remodel of what you've been doing, trying to kind of limp forward after the Sean Payton, Drew Brees years and keep some of that late core. It's time to move on, accept your fate. I'm perfectly fine if the Saints want to roll with Tyler Shough or Spencer Rattler or Justin Haener. I don't think that Tyler Shough's any good, by the way. I don't think that he's going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. So I think if the Saints rolled with one of those 3 guys, they're looking at the number 1 pick in the draft. And hey, could be a pretty good quarterback class, the experts say. Might be a place where the Saints want to be. But the Saints, throughout the last few years, have gone kicking and screaming to not do that, to not take their medicine and accept their fate. Instead, they're extending 30-year-old running backs and doing things like that. So if the Saints want to accept their fate, great. That is exactly what they should be doing. Roll with one of these crappy young quarterbacks. Tank like you've never tanked before. Let Kellen Moore, your new head coach, get his quarterback of the future in the draft high next year, and then start to build your team, the new version of the New Orleans Saints, as some of the older guys start to phase out. That should be the plan. But I have a feeling, like I said earlier, that the New Orleans Saints are not going to accept their fate. They're going to do everything they possibly can to eke out as many wins as they possibly can this year. And if they do what I expect them to do, then that means they're going to have to make a trade or a big-time free agent signing. Wait, who's a free agent that's still available? Aaron Rodgers, but that's not my top option for the Saints. I'll tell you who that is. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more experts to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple. I've had to hire freelance workers for logos, graphic design, stuff like that for my different content channels. And if you need to do that, the best place to do it is with Upwork. So visit Upwork.com right now to post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. All right, football fans, let's cap off this bonus edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. We talked about Derek Carr's career, the Saints' financial situation, who the quarterbacks remaining are for the Saints, and why I think playing one of those guys would be their best route forward. But I think the Saints are going to do what the Saints have been doing and continue to try to be as mildly competitive as they possibly can, while also not having any real shot at any tangible success, which is really the worst place that you can be as a franchise in the NFL. Losing is hard. It's tough on the fans, but at the end of the day, do you want to be stuck in the middle? Depends on if you want to win football games or not. But if the Saints do want to try to maximize wins this year, they can go out and sign Aaron Rodgers. I'm sorry, but Aaron Rodgers is way better than Tyler Shough, Spencer Rattler, or Justin Haener, even at 58 years old. I do not care. We could call Brett Favre and bring him back for all I care over Shough, Rattler, and Haener if you're trying to win football games. Look, that's a joke, but the reality is Aaron Rodgers is old. And even him being old, he definitely gives you a chance to win more games than those three young quarterbacks do. Even though Tyler Shough is the same age as Aaron Rodgers certainly has more NFL experience. That has to be admitted. Another great joke, in my opinion, but we're here to talk football, not tell jokes. So I'll tell you this. Kirk Cousins is obviously still an option. Now, would the Saints really get a get-out-of-jail-free card with an expensive mid-level quarterback and then go to a really expensive, more mid-level quarterback? And Kirk Cousins, I think Derek Carr last year was a better player than Kirk Cousins is going to be the rest of the way. So would they do that? I don't think that makes a lot of sense. Now, if you're trying to be stupidly competitive, then maybe that's what you want to do. But I think that there are other less shiny options for the Saints. Maybe not Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, names that we know and all that, but maybe they could look to add another young quarterback and get a look at them and just really go full-out competition. I would say a guy like Kenny Pickett. So you look at the Browns, they draft Dylan Gabriel, they have Shadur Sanders. We're going to talk about that situation here in Locked On NFL coming up on Tuesday morning. But Kenny Pickett was in Philadelphia last year with Kellen Moore. And Kenny Pickett had some pretty good moments as a backup quarterback in Philadelphia. It's Kenny Pickett, expectations, and I'm not saying that he's Joe Montana now, but there's familiarity with the player. You know that the player can execute the concepts that you want to run. If they maybe want to get a different look at somebody else other than the young quarterbacks they have, I think trading for Kenny Pickett, who just got traded to the Browns, you just flip him for the same thing he got traded for, maybe a little bit less, and there you have a move. You have a guy that you know that maybe you're a little bit more confident in than these rookie quarterbacks and these young quarterbacks that you have in the building. Nobody from Kellen Moore's coaching staff is married to Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener. I think I said Justin Haener early in the episode, but it's Jake Haener. And Tyler Shough is the guy they just drafted, but did they intend for Tyler Shough to play right away? If they want to avoid that while still tanking, you could go trade for a guy like Kenny Pickett. You could go trade for a guy like Will Levis. Maybe I'm trying to manifest that to benefit the team that I cover. I don't know, who's counting. But seriously, if you want to get a look at a young quarterback, maybe they don't want Rattler and Haener because, again, those aren't their guys. Maybe they want to get rid of those guys or at least get rid of one of them, like Haener, and then bring in another quarterback who they have more familiarity in or more interest in that's one of their guys that they want to take a shot on. And that could be Pickett, who I think is the best option, or it could be a guy like Will Levis. Kenny Pickett, to me, if the Saints make a trade for a quarterback, I would bet money that it's for Kenny Pickett. It just makes the most sense. Now, Cleveland has all four of those guys. Rookie contracts are longer than the contract that Kenny Pickett is on right now because they're fresh rookie contracts. Joe Flacco is who is going to be their starter. Like, it's not like Kenny Pickett is going to beat out Joe Flacco. So somebody's going to be an odd man out. The Browns aren't keeping four guys on the roster. Kenny Pickett, they traded a mid-round for him. They could just trade another mid-round for him and get him out the door. And then, again, the Kenny Pickett connection with Kellen Moore from last year in Philadelphia makes a lot of sense, too. So, with that in mind, though, that's going to do it for today's bonus episode. Me and the Legacy Louis DiBiase are going to be out on Sunday morning. And Monday morning, we're going to have a regular Locked On NFL episode for you, looking at the NFC North. Tony Wiggins in the afternoon in the barbershop. He's going to take care of you as well. Probably be talking more Derek Carr, but wanted to make sure got a little Derek Carr bonus episode out to you guys. Again, I think the Saints need to take their medicine, but if they don't, I would expect them to make a trade. With that being said, though, that is going to do it for me today, folks. As I tell you every single episode, thanks for tuning in, and stay safe out there.